So how's your day going? Because mine just got worse because I'm an idiot. So what I've done is put the car back on the ground so I could tighten up the drive shaft bolt. Been speaking to a few people about it, and I've been told it wants to be like 200 newton meters, 250 newton meters, something ridiculous. So based on that, I don't have a torque wrench that goes that tight, so I just used a fairly small breaker bar and tightened it up, and I broke the nut. So I had a quick look, and actually only wanted to be 120 newton meters, and I definitely put a lot more than 120 newton meters on it. So what that means is I'm gonna have to buy a new drive shaft, take that all apart and do it again. It's completely my fault, but it is just very annoying because obviously that means I have to now wait again, and I don't have my car for a bit more time, which sucks. I'm going to try and drive the car home now, and hopefully I can at least see if that CV is the one that's failed, because if that noise has gone away, then I know I'm all good. If not, then I know I need to do the other one as well. I did try and see if I could save it by using the other nut from the old drive shaft, and yeah, that hasn't gone well. It's tightened up a bit, but it's not actually good enough. I'm not sure if you're going to see in there. Okay, let me quickly show you that. So all of that shininess that you can see in there is basically where the threads have failed and stripped. Annoyingly, it hasn't completely failed on the nut, it's also ruined the drive shaft, and I don't think it can be saved, so it's just going to be a case of buying a new drive shaft and fitting it again, which absolutely fucking sucks because it now means I don't have a car to drive again, which is great. I mean, look, this stuff does happen, especially when you don't use a torque wrench and you don't actually properly do your research. One of my friends did actually print me off the manual on exactly how to do this, and I forgot to bring it, and I thought I'd read it, and I thought I'd read somewhere like 200 newton meters, which obviously I haven't, or didn't, because that was wrong. So completely my fault. This stuff does happen, but it doesn't make it any less annoying. So the only good news I do have is that we have booked the ferry for Germany. So we're going to be going, I believe, the 20th of April. The 4 of us are going to load up the Skabia and go to Nurburgring. We're also going to go to Cologne for a few days just because it's not that far, something to do. Other good news is I have spoken to the body shop, and finally we're making good progress on getting the car painted. So this is a different car that you haven't seen yet. It's a car I've owned for about 3 years now, project I've had for ages and been working on the entire time, but it went into the body shop last year and it's taken far too long to get the car painted. They have painted it once and the paint supplier gave them the wrong colour, so they didn't realise until they went to finish off the last few bits and the two colours were completely different. I have got the bumpers and the headlights back from them, which is great. They have done the engine bay, under the bonnet and all the shuts. So not too much left of it now. So hopefully 3 or 4 weeks and I should be able to go and collect that. But for now, I think I'm just going to leave it here. Just going to tidy up this mess and then go home and cry, because it means I need to spend more time working on this absolute bag of shit. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. I am back today working on the Skabia. What I'm doing today is replacing the CV joint on that front passenger side drive shaft that I broke last time. I have driven the car a very small amount, obviously, because that central drive shaft nut won't tighten down all the way because I stripped the thread. I can't drive it very far, but I've driven it a little bit and that noise has completely gone. So I think I can replace that CV joint now and that should be all good to go. I've also brought with me today some kind of paint material. So I brought some rust converter to tackle the rear arches, because as you can see, they've got a little bit of corrosion starting on them just because they've actually been sanded back to bare metal and then not protected in any way, which is shit. And I've also bought a bunch of spray primer so I can kind of try and get the car at least in one color again, get rid of all that ugly blue, red, and then the black on that bonnet, and kind of just start to make some progress so that once we hit 1,000 subs and you guys have chosen a color, I can paint the car. But for now, let's do that CV joint and get into it. Okay, so that didn't take very long to get that all apart. I forgot to put that bolt back in last time, so that made it even easier. But I just wanted to quickly show you actually the damage I did to that thread. Yeah, there's like none left. That's pretty bad. Yeah, I did some research and it was only wanting to be like 110 Newton meters or something, so really like nothing, and I definitely talked up a little bit more than that. So yeah, it's completely my fault. Hopefully this isn't gonna be too much of a pain to get off, but I guess we shall see. But yeah, for now let's just get into it and hopefully get this done soon. Okay, right, so that CV joint actually went on okay. Luckily there was no like circlips or anything, because they are an absolute nightmare to get off. So it's back on the ground. I have left that center cap off on purpose. I've tightened up the main drive shaft nut, but because I broke it last time, I'm not going to over tighten it, and because I'm me, I forgot to bring a torque wrench with me. Right, so that CV joint is now done, which is great. Didn't take as long as I thought it would, and actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. The clips that it came with, I didn't have the right tool to kind of do them, so I put them on there for now, but I'm going to keep an eye on them, and if they start to kind of not look right, or if I can see any CV grease leaking out of them, I'm going to obviously change them straight away. But for now that is done. I stupidly didn't bring a torque wrench with me, so I've tightened up that center drive shaft nut about to kind of 100 Newton meters, I think. But I am going to check that with a torque wrench when I get home. So left that center cap out for the moment. What I'm going to start doing now is just kind of attacking the areas of corrosion on the car. So like on this kind of rear arch, and also where the badge was on the bonnet here. So I've got some sandpaper with me just to kind of remove any of that surface rust, and then I've got this stuff which the label has come off of. So it's basically just like a really good rust converter. I used it on my main project when I was doing the underside of it, so I've got a bit left, which is great. So the plan is sand off the corrosion that started to form, get the rust converter on it, and then get some primer over the top of that. So let's make a start. Okay, so now that I've cleaned off most of the surface rust from there, basically just to make sure I've got a clean surface, just going to give it a quick wipe over, and then use some of this rust converter basically just to prep the surface. So from what I got told by the previous owner, the guy I bought it from, the badge area had actually been like completely like filled over, and I can get why. I think it would do like badge deletes and stuff, but I'm personally not a fan of it. So I'm going to keep doing what the previous owner I bought it from did, and he basically chiseled off all the filler. So I've finished off doing that, prepped the surface, and now I'm ready to get some rust converter on it, because unfortunately it hasn't been done the best. Like a lot of things on this car, so the surface is a bit shit. So you don't really need a lot of this stuff. You are really meant to put it on with a paintbrush, but I don't have a paintbrush, and these kind of cloths are going to do a good enough job of just kind of getting it onto there. So it goes on kind of like a white colour, and then as it reacts with the rust and the corrosion, it goes kind of like a bluey green colour. So I mean, yeah, it doesn't really need a lot. We'll just kind of get some of that on there, make sure we get it into all the little like smaller gaps, and then we'll just leave that for a little bit to dry. Okay, and what we're going to do now is basically the same process on this rear arch. It looks like someone has attempted to kind of roll the arch slightly, I imagine, to get the wheels to fit when it is completely aired out. And in the process they have sanded down all of the paint, so that is bare metal. And as you can see, there is some corrosion starting to form, so I'm just going to lightly sand that off just to get it all clean again, and then we can get some of that rust converter on there. If anyone's wondering if this is necessarily the right way to do it, I would say probably not, but for the type of car it is, because it's the Skabia, it doesn't really matter too much. Just trying to make it a bit nicer than it is, because right now it looks shit, and the way it's left, it won't last all that long. I mean, with all the bare exposed metal, all the rust starting to form, the car won't last. So just trying to make sure I can get the car to last as long as possible, because as I've said, it is my daily driver. So okay, so as you can see, that has now got a slight kind of blue purpley tinge to it, and that is where the rust converter has actually worked. So there's still a few bits of kind of white in there where it hasn't completely dried yet, but that kind of means that that surface now is actually ready for some primer, which is good. Obviously it's just started to rain, so as you saw, I had kind of started to tackle the rust conversion on the bonnet and the rear arches. I had sanded them down and got the rust converter on there. The next step after it dried was to get some primer on there just to kind of protect it, because obviously that rust conversion will kind of, as it do its job, it will convert the rust, but it's not going to protect the metal underneath from any future rust. So it's raining now, and all of that work I just did is pretty much now pointless, because I haven't been able to get any primer on it. So I'm gonna have to do it again. Not the end of the world, but obviously annoying. I'd also started to mask off, sand down, and actually put a little bit of primer down on that passenger side doors, just as a bit of a test. Got about halfway through kind of the first coat on the door, and it started to rain, so I imagine all of that is now completely garbage, and it's all going to have to be sanded off and started again. Also, that masking tape is now going to be a nightmare to get off because it's going to be wet. So I think for now I'm going to have to leave it here, but I will see you guys in a couple of days when I'm back again working on the Skabia.